We do not have anyone other than myself and the podium and Carrie on Zoom. So again, we do have a quorum here. If you want, I can do a roll call. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to the chairperson. Again, just apologize for the delay. So thank you for your patience.
Okay, I guess if you want to have a roll call, Zoning Board of Appeals, Dave Laspa, that's me. Jerry Feith, here. Lee Gossick is not here.
I did just confirm with Lee that he will not be in attendance.
Okay. Mike Hittner.
Present.
And Dennis Pollock. And Penny Montag is the first alternative, but she's a voting member now that Lee Gossick is not attending. So I guess we'll call the meeting to order of the Zoning Board of Appeals, February 23rd, 2022. Our first item of business is approve of the report from the December 15th, 2021 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting.
I'll move that those minutes be approved as presented.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against? None. Therefore, the minutes have passed. Our next item is Variance 220031 Chad Worrell, public hearing and action on a request for variance to reduce the front, rear, and side yard setbacks to construct an accessory structure at 850 Rosecrans Street, parcel ID 3401550, and we'll start out first with a staff report.
Thank you. I'm going to be turning it over to Carrie to give a brief presentation on the item.
All right, good afternoon, Chair Laspa and members of the Appeals Board. So the item before you this afternoon is for Chad Worrell, and it's a public hearing and action on a request for a variance to reduce the front, rear, and side yard setbacks to construct an accessory structure at 850 Rosecrans. So just some background on the property. The applicant is requesting the variances from the front, side, and rear yard setbacks. They've been operating a successful custom welding and fabrication shop for several years, and at present, the business has outgrown the existing space to the extent that the applicant has, to the extent that he's received approval to park containers and trailers on the property to the east, and also sought city assistance with paving the street to the south, and also pursued street vacation to create a turning radius that was more adequate for delivery traffic that was needed. So previously, a little more background on that. So there was approval received from Canadian National Railway to park the storage containers and trailers on the property. Historically, over the last couple decades, the needs for storage and kind of additional space has kind of increased throughout that time. And so there is need now for the detached accessory structure to the east of the existing building. The accessory structure as proposed is 1 foot from the front, side, and rear lot lines, and is proposed to be 20 feet in width and between 57 and 70 feet in length. Because of the configuration of the lot, there's a little bit of variability there. It would be a high base stall with a height of 27 feet. And the zoning standards in the M1 General Industrial District require a 25-foot front yard setback, which in our zoning code is any frontage that's street side, 15-foot side yard setback, and then a 25-foot rear yard setback. And the lot coverage maximum is 70%, which the applicant does meet. So this is just a table showing the required setbacks and then the proposed setbacks. And here's some photos, some recent photos from the subject property. So the one at the top and the one on the right, both are showing the area where the proposed accessory structure would be constructed. So that's the rear of the, or I guess the side of the property right now, or the rear of the property right now. So there's some storage containers, a portable storage container there, some trailers, and then the other view is looking the other way at the building. So this proposed accessory structure would be the side we do not see in that bottom picture. So standards of review just as a reminder for the variance request, is we look at some questions that we ask. So do unique physical limitations exist on the property, including steep slopes or wetlands that are not generally shared by other properties that prevent compliance with ordinance requirements? So this was our first question that we need to look at. And the applicant did note on the application that he felt that the angled lines of the property kind of created some physical limitations. But after staff review and just kind of historic knowledge, this is not uncommon with properties in the city to have this style of lot configuration. And there are several properties also zoned M1 in the immediate area that share a similar size. And additionally, many of these are kind of interior properties that don't have a corner lot, don't have the benefit of the two frontages, and some of the things that the applicant has been able to utilize with the adjacent property owners has created some benefit, that some other properties don't have. But there's nothing specific to this property that would lead us as staff to think that it would have unique physical limitations. And the second question is the request due to the existence of an unnecessary hardship? So the hardship in this case, it would be needing additional space to utilize the business, which it would be considered kind of like a self-created hardship. It's something due to circumstances that the applicant is bringing to the situation, not that, exist exclusive of the applicant. So in looking at unnecessary hardship, we believe this property has the ability to be used in a capacity as many M1 properties are, and that there's nothing that creates an unnecessary hardship in this case. And then the last question, does the requested variance impact the interest of the neighbors, the entire community, and the general public? Of course, with cases like this, we're always looking at the approval setting a precedent. We don't want a situation where we're creating, variances need to be applied consistently over time, and that's the reason we have these questions that need to be applied to every scenario, so that when there are unique circumstances that we can take those cases in isolation. But if they're not present, we don't want to set a precedent for properties that don't have physical limitations, that don't have unnecessary hardship, and then can continue to kind of get exceptions. So we think it could set a precedent. We believe that it could also and would also increase the intensity of the use, which could have could adversely impact adjacent residences and just adjacent properties. I mean, as uses become more dense and intense on lots, the circumstances with, noise and traffic and various things change. So again, the staff recommendation is for denial. We do not see unique property characteristics, and in addition, we believe that any hardship claimed appears to be self-created. And are there any questions from the board members?
Is there any, he's 1 foot away from the lot line. You're not going to be able to construct it without going onto other people's properties. Does he have construction easements?
Not to our knowledge, and I will confirm that that's part of the reason why setbacks exist, is to make sure that there's adequate access for constructing the improvement as well as maintaining the improvement. But perhaps the applicant can provide further details to the question. Can you press the button up there, Chad? Where it's green. Thank you.
As of this time, I do not have permission from the railroad to, for any construction purposes. I'm here to, if the variance is requested, or I mean, if it's granted today, then we will move forward with drawings and renderings, and I will finalize all that later on down the road. I'm just asking for the foot. I'm not saying that the building might be only 3 feet or 4 feet from the lot line. But since I'm asking for the variance, I want a little leeway of the setback. Because I need, from the north and the south, I need 40 feet, actually 45, 50 feet, in order for the building to get trailers in there and work on 40-foot trailers and close the door properly. You need to have space to work around the front and the rear, to walk around your piece of equipment. And then I'm asking for a little bit further to the north for a 10 to 15 feet for a mechanical room that will be built with that. So it'd be like a 20 by 50 or 20 by 60 by the time we're done, for a mechanical room for air compressors and hot water heaters for the in-floor heat and so on and so forth. So I'm not, I guess I should have stated that with Kyle, I'm not building right up to that 1 foot mark, except to the south. I need the in the front of the building where the garage door is to the roadside, that'll be 1 foot. But the side and the back, the east and the north, it's probably going to be 3 feet to the north and probably, possibly 2 to 3 feet to the railroad side, to the east.
What are your plans for the stormwater runoff off of your building? You're going to put in a lot of impervious surface. Have you talked to the engineering department about that?
Yes, and they're addressing that because there's a lot of problems on the railroad property with that. In the northeast corner, there's a ditch that runs along the switch line, and that had a culvert in there that ran to Rainbow Street, and that had collapsed, and all the water from that ditch runs into my property, and my trailers and everything sits about 8 inches underwater at the end of April when the snow melts. There are no utilities in that dead end. When I bought the property in 2013, that whole cul-de-sac to the east, where you see on your pamphlet, there's a row of rocks. The rocks for the end so nobody drives into the railroad at the end of the dead end, that was all woods. That was a wooded area. And I asked the city to clear cut the trees and kind of make a gravel turnaround so I could get delivery vehicles down there. And so that drainage down there, and then there's another cul-de-sac on that little driveway that goes to behind the railroad depot for their access. The only reason why that was put in is because when they redid 1984, 85, I think, they redid Dura Beauty Lane with sewer, water, and repaved that. And the railroad employees needed to get to work, so they put that access in, and the city forgot to close it back up after Dura Beauty was done. So there was a drain underneath that too, and when they cut down all the trees, they ripped that up and they put a little, I don't know, 6 or 8 inch PVC culvert in there, because the water needs to drain into that ditch to the south, and then it runs along the right-of-way lot line of 9th Avenue and the Little Pink Restaurant. It runs into a storm sewer onto Dura Beauty Lane. So until the city wants to fix all that mess, I don't have a legal answer for you about the water runoff, because that whole dead end is a mess. All I know is my shop is about 6 inches higher, and we have a 6-inch elevation drop from the front of my garage doors to that ditch to the south.
Does anybody else on the board have questions?
No, what they've been telling me for years is nobody really knows the legal lot line to the east, because they were telling me that it was 50-foot easement from the center of the tracks. Well, back when Larry's shop was, when it was Larry's Auto Body, in the early 70s, there was only one track there. So since then, you get 2 tracks on each side of that center track. Where's the legal right-of-way lot line on that trapezoid, as you can see on the photos? And nobody has ever been able to answer that, and the railroad can't answer that either. And the reason why they allow me to park that one trailer and half of my container there, it wasn't because I was out of room. I could have moved it over into that spot, but we came to an agreement. I've been working since 2014 to vacate that dead end. But when you vacate a road, each property owner gets 33 feet. That brings the lot line down to the center of the road. I can't make the swing into my stalls of my shop if I lose 33 feet. I requested from the railroad to buy their 33 feet back. The city attorney's tried, Adam Tagan has tried, Kyle has tried. We cannot get the railroad to respond and answer any questions and to move forward with that idea. That would be the perfect scenario, is if I own the whole dead end, which that's what I wanted to do, but that's not feasible. So this is my plan B. If they told me I could park my shipping container on the property and my one flatbed trailer to the east, as you see in that photo, if we would leave that access to that parking lot to the south open. Because I've been wanting them to fill that in because I don't like all that traffic down on that dead end.
I'm going to digress a little bit. I noticed in the paper, and I've seen for the last year or two, about how we want more intense residential use of property, smaller lot lines, more housing built. There's just an article in the paper, I think 3-4 days ago. But when it comes to commercial or this sort of property, we don't want it. But I kind of find it's a kind of a strange dichotomy. In the residential area, we want to put them closer together. We used to always complain about substandard lots years ago. Now they want to make everything smaller lots so we can get more housing in and we don't take up so much more space. And we want more intensive housing, but when it comes to commercial like this, that it's really a commercial area with a railroad all around it and everything, other than a few houses to the north and maybe a little bit to the east there. To the west. It's all pretty much commercial. Here we don't want more intensity. So it's just a dichotomy to me. It doesn't add up, but.
Thing on that. So you are correct. The housing trend over the last, I'd say 10 years, even maybe more so in the last few years, has been for smaller lot sizes, smaller homes, maybe kind of clustered housing with more open space. Because the thought is with that previously there had been so much, large lots, large homes was kind of seen as desirable and seen as things people really wanted. And it has become less desired, and also we have such a housing shortage, and continuing to construct in that way, we don't have, we're not meeting our needs, I guess. In this example, this is a relatively, it is a smaller manufacturing lot, maybe comparatively, but there are several that are similarly sized in the district. I think what's unique in this situation is just building out so much of the lot. Like with the smaller housing scaled projects, usually the lot, the home, everything is kind of sized accordingly. What we're kind of seeing in this example is a lot size that's set, and then the structural components far exceeding, what we typically allow on that site. And then a pretty heavy encroachment into those setbacks.
Go ahead.
If I also may add, this last summer, because Larry Robinson, who owned the building prior to me for 30-plus years, spent his own money. The property right now is only 12 feet setback from the city right-of-way to the south, to the road. He spent his own money and blacktopped from the right-of-way all down into the road, a portion of it. And that all crumbled after 30 years. So I met with the city engineering last year, and they allowed me to pour all that new concrete, as you can see from the aerial view, over 50-plus yards of concrete. And because of the nature of the building and the grade, they allowed me to pour through the city right-of-way down right to the curb and gutter. So there is no curb and gutter. They told me to stay a half inch above existing grade, the highest existing grade, and the spring of 2022, they will be paving that dead end, and the grade of the blacktop will be set right up to the bottom of that concrete. So we're trying very much for curb appeal and easy access for trucks and delivery vehicles, plus the railroad traffic. And as you can see, I'm sticking a lot of money into that property. Anybody that has watched the previous meetings of this committee over the last eight to 10 months, like I have, I don't think anybody that stood on this podium has met any of the requirements of this hardship. So it's cut and dried. I want to expand a 20 by 50 with a second story. I'm expanding my business. City staff talked about relocating me. I love it on that dead end. I live right around the corner. I was born and raised right around the corner. That's a unique dead end. It's very quiet, and M1, general industrial. A lot of people know I'm there. I don't want to relocate. I'm adding on a second story for a break room / office, and hope to be hiring a few people as my dad looks at retirement. So with that being said, I'm here today just to ask for the variance, and you can look at any one of my properties. They're well-maintained. The yards, snow plowing, landscaping, everything's kept up, looks very nice. So I have a good history, and I am in good friendship with the Public Works Department. We have no problem plowing and doing any maintenance on that dead end. We work together because of the no curb and gutter and this and that when they plow that dead end. I went around the neighborhood, and I have all the properties that are close to my shop. I have 6 letters from 6 neighbors, all speaking in favor for every within your 300 or whatever it was, 300 feet and more, even down the road on Rosecrans. So I'm just asking for the variance, and that's all I have to say.
The property to the north is a residential property. Do you have permission to be on their property? I see they have a fence.
It is not residential, it's zoned M1 also. And that fence is going to be tore down by me, and I am putting a 6-foot cyclone fence to the whole length of the property with privacy slats, and I'm working with the neighbor, and they're all for it.
Okay, is there any other questions from the board?
Clarification, Chad, were you looking to submit the letters, the 6 letters, to the record?
Yes.
Okay. We can circulate them, and then can we hold on to them at the end, and we'll scan them in and make sure that they become part of the record? Thank you.
Absolutely. Their addresses are on there also, so if you need to know where they are in conjunction with my shop.
Okay, oh, there we go, not good at that. I guess we'll move on to the public hearing then. I will ask 3 times for anybody that's in favor. They need to identify themselves and give their address, and then I'll ask 3 times for people that are against this project. So I'll start out with who would be in favor of this variance?
I remembered. Thank you. Shane Blazer, 2830 12th Street South. I'm here to support and speak in favor of Mr. Will's project. As has already been stated, that he's done a lot to that property. He's made an investment in it. He's made an investment in the west side. As long as I've known Mr. Will, he's been very passionate about the west side and his business is on the west side. I think the uniqueness of the property creates the hardship. That property is located right next to a railroad bed and railroad tracks. It's not like it's going to all of a sudden become residential. I highly doubt it. I think his expansion up to the property line is not going to adversely affect any properties there next to the railroad. And I just want to speak in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this project? Anyone else here to speak in favor of this project? Okay, I'll go to, and anyone here to speak against this project? Anyone here to speak against this project? Anyone here to speak against this project? Hearing nothing, I guess we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion. Go ahead.
I think I have this on, yes. Just having read through the letters, including the north neighbor, who would be most greatly impacted, I think that the language that's in those letters indicates that Mr. Whirl has been a good neighbor, has run a good operation, and they are solidly in favor of this expansion. My thought is that this is a manufacturing zoning. I think that in terms of the architecture there and the impact on the neighborhood, it's low, especially considering that the railroad runs right through there and surrounds his property. I just don't see any reason not to do this. The setbacks are, I'm sure, a technicality, but it seems like this panel and other panels in the city give great weight to the desires of people wanting to make investments in the city. I think we need to go back not very far to see other, I mean, you worry about setting precedent. Well, the staff has recommended precedent changing, precedent setting recommendations often, and this committee has generally gone along with it. I don't see any difference in this situation.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the variance request be granted as
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to grant the variance. I'll do a roll call vote. Oh, is there any discussion on? I guess there's no discussion, so I'll start a roll call vote.
Can I interject? Can we get some clarification and reasoning for the motion being made, primarily as it relates to the standards of review?
I think that it's just the circumstances and the location of the property along the railroad right away there, and the residential to the north is not opposed to it and the most directly affected, and to the south, we have the railroad station or whatever there, and I think it's Little Pink's, part of their parking lot maybe there too, possibly. So I think that because of the circumstances of the lot and the neighbors in the area that property is in, and the ability of it to affect any of the neighbors is limited. So I think that's the reasoning behind my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with what Mr. Hittner here has said. You just look at the property, I mean, it's basically commercial property. All the property owners basically are in favor of it. I think this is nothing but a plus for the city, and I certainly agree with the motion.
If I could add just one little note, it seems to me that there's already equipment and so forth that's allowed to be parked out to the expressway side, the high traffic side of this property. It seems to me that this addition, in a way, I always think about how the city looks as you drive through it, and this addition seems to me would improve the appearance of that area by screening off all of the smaller activities that are going on in that direction. So I'm in favor of it for that reason as well.
Okay, if there's any further comments, I'll do a roll call vote. Jerry Feith,
Aye.
Mike Hittner,
Aye.
Dennis Pollock, Peggy Montag,
Aye.
and myself, I'm going to vote no because I would go along with the staff report. So the motion carried 4-1. I guess our next item of business is adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? None? Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned.